Namaste and welcome to Flutter AppWrite series. In this series, we are building a time tracking application from scratch using Flutter and AppWrite. In the previous episode, we set up our Flutter project and some GitHub actions. In this episode, we are going to integrate our AppWrite project and Flutter project together. In order to make that happen, our Flutter project should be able to communicate with our AppWrite server, and our AppWrite server should know about our Flutter project so that it can verify that the requests are coming from authorized application. In order for our AppWrite server to know about our Flutter project, we need to add something called a platform in AppWrite project. If you head over to your AppWrite account and open your project overview tab, you can see this Add Platform section. Here you can select Flutter. In the Flutter, you can add one of the supported Flutter platforms at once. So you need to add multiple times. First, let us say I want to build my time tracking application for macOS. So I will click on macOS, then give it a name. So I'll call it FlapWrite Tracker Mac, and then we need something called bundle ID, which we can find from our Xcode, or in our Flutter project, we can simply search for product bundle identifier, and you can see this value in project.pvxpros file. And if you look at this, the project bundle identifier is usually the reverse domain that we provided while creating the project, and then the name of the project, which is FlapWrite Tracker. We can simply copy this value and then paste it here. Next, now for our application to be able to communicate with AppWrite server, we need to add AppWrite's Flutter SDK. We can manually copy this, or we can simply use this flutter pub add AppWrite command. So let me copy this command, get back to our project, open terminal, and then paste and run this command, flutter pub add AppWrite. Now if I look into pubspec.yaml file, I can see AppWrite dependency has been added. Next step, we need to initialize our AppWrite client using the endpoint and project ID. So for that, we can simply copy this example code provided here, copy, head over to our project, inside live, let's create a new folder called AppWrite and file called appwrite.dart. Let us paste this code here. And before we can do anything, let us create a class called AppWrite and then put it inside the class, then create a constructor and set this initialization inside constructor. We can remove the set self signed true because we are using AppWrite Cloud, which has a valid SSL certificate. All right. If you see, we are doing very simple thing here, which is client. We are instantiating a new client which comes from package AppWrite, and then we are setting our endpoint to cloud.appwrite.io/v1. This is required because AppWrite is open source, which you can self-host yourself and provide your own domain and host it on your own server. At that time, in the endpoint, you will be providing your own project. Also, while creating the project, here it will show the correct value. I can do next here. So our platform is added. Go back to dashboard. If later you want to find your platforms, in the overview tab, you can just scroll below and you can find your platforms. Also, if you want to find your project ID and endpoint, you can head over to project settings, and on top you can find your project ID and also your API endpoint. Again, let's head over to platforms, and here we have our app, right? Let us add one more platform for Android. So here in the overview tab, again click on add platform button, select Flutter app. This time we select Android. Let's give it a name, Android, and the package name can be found in our app build.gradle file, which is inside Android folder, inside app build.gradle. If we scroll below, we can find our application ID, which is again our reverse domain and then the project name. Let's paste it here. Next, we have already done these things, so we can skip optional steps. So now we have our both platforms. Following same approach, you can add more platforms that you want to build for. Right now, I'm only building for macOS and Android, but you can add as many platforms as you like. Let's go back to our project. Let's commit our code. Integrating AppWrite. That's all for this episode. In this episode, we learned to integrate Flutter project with AppWrite. You can follow this to integrate any of your Flutter project with your AppWrite project. I hope you like this video. If you do, don't forget to share and subscribe. See you again in the next episode. Thank you.